Hi guys, Marcus from Live Life Your Way here again. Another quick video. I have really actually been on a massive video binge talking about diet, insulin, sugars and stuff like that. So I'm just going to clarify a couple of things. And I'm going to clarify, let's clarify what insulin is. Insulin, it's simply a hormone. All right, it's created by the body. But what triggers it? Well, it's triggered by an intake of carbohydrates. Now, what I want you to understand here is that all carbs, basic carbs, starches, sugars, processed refined sugars, natural sugars, they are all carbohydrates, and they all basically come down to a glucose molecule. Okay, that glucose molecule going into the human body triggers insulin production. Okay, so the more you put in, the more insulin's produced. You have a high carb diet, then your body's producing an excessive amount of insulin all the time. Okay, ultra processed foods usually have carbs, starches of some type, even yogurts. You might not realize it, but even yogurts, they have a thickener in them. And that thickener, if it comes down to a starch, which is, again, comes down to a glucose molecule. Even if it says no added sugars, they only have to say sugar. They don't have to say all the other types of glucose. Okay, so starches, ultra processed foods, all that sort of stuff, carbohydrates, sugars, it's all going to create insulin in the body. It's all going to trigger that hormone reaction. Okay, the downsides of that are going to be something really, really simple: insulin resistance. Okay, so as your body produces more insulin, it's going to look for more sugars, more glucose. Then as it eats up all that glucose, it's still producing glucose, it's still producing insulin. So it's going to constantly be looking for glucose. Okay, so one of the problems with those, that issue of the constant glucose going in and the constant insulin production is insulin resistance, which then leads to diabetes, inflammation of the joints, chronic inflammation, sleep problems. We're going to damage the mitochondria in our cells. You're going to get headaches. You're going to get brain fog. All of these all stem back to relating to sugars, glucose going into the body. Okay? The excessive sugar intake then also inflames the lining of the arteries to the heart. All of this is constantly damaging our bodies. The sugar damage also damages our gut and digestive system and kills off the good bacteria and exacerbates the bad bacteria in our digestive system, which then causes all sorts of digestive issues. Okay, which then means we can't digest the food properly, which then means we want more of the wrong foods because of the addiction of the sugars, which then leads to insulin resistance. And it's this constant cycle. The cytokines in the bloodstream cause massive amount of inflammation due to these high glucose intakes. So if you've got arthritis, joint issues, inflammation in your joints, inflammation in your ligaments and tendons, relate that back to what you've been eating. Think about, okay, what have I been eating for the last few weeks or the last few months? And I can guarantee you it'll come back to a carb-based diet. You switch those carbs out for proteins, you're going to get better muscle build, you're going to get lower insulin in through the body, you're going to reduce all of that damage and that inflammation. You need to drop the insulin. To drop the insulin, we have to drop the carb intake, the sugar intake, the glucose intake. Okay, there are so many problems related to carbohydrate intake that create long-term problems for the body, because then we need to fix it. If you've got this inflammation in your body as a result of the carbohydrate and sugar intake, then that you end up going to get repairs to your body, thinking, oh, I've got a joint problem, I need to see someone about it. But if that person's not asking what your dietary intake is like, if that doctor, that specialist, that rehab person, any of those professionals not asking about your dietary intake, then they're only looking to make money off you. They're not looking to actually fix your problem. So insulin, hormone, triggered, it's simply triggered by the intake of glucose molecules into your body. The excessive insulin leads to insulin resistance, which leads to a higher intake, which leads to all these chronic problems. Simplified, what we need to do is just reduce our sugar. Ideally, zero, especially with processed foods, hyper-processed foods with carbs in them. And you've got to be careful what's in your foods too. I have previously talked about looking at the list of products on a particular food, the list of ingredients. So you've got to pay attention to what you're eating. So yeah, insulin, it's a hormone triggered in the body by the ingestion of glucose molecules, carbohydrates, sugars. Leads to insulin resistance, leads to inflammation, leads to diabetes, leads to headaches, brain fog, chronic problems, poor sleep, all those issues. So yeah, insulin. The body produces it naturally, but it produces it as a result of a dietary intake. So I want you to look at what you're eating, consider what you're eating. And I think I did a video a little while ago about how we can potentially put some sugars in and how we can mix that through our body. So have a look at that video about that. Yeah, if you've got any further questions, just ask. Just keeping videos simple. Yeah, that's what insulin is. It's a hormone produced as a reaction to carbohydrate intake. Stay safe out there. See you in the next video.